Andrew Tate's online university called The Real World just got hacked, with 325,000 emails and all their public and private chat logs being leaked. But all these news articles that are covering this are missing two very important things. The first thing is that they don't even have an account to look into the real world because they aren't stupid like me. But the second thing is that I don't think anyone realizes that this hack is way bigger than you think. Now, just to get everyone caught up to speed, if you don't know what the real world is, it's fundamentally a Discord clone. You have channels and you can chat in them. There's a currency system that's a little bit different, but instead of servers, you have campuses, and then in the top left, you have a courses tab where you can go through and watch videos to learn, in my opinion, very fundamental garbage that you shouldn't have to pay $50 a month for, because keep in mind, to join the real world, to go on Andrew Tate's Discord clone, you need to spend $50 a month. Every single person that is on this platform is spending $50 a month. And if it wasn't obvious, most of the people in here are hustle culture bros that think they're better than everyone else, and I cover all this in a previous video. But in terms of this video, I want to focus specifically on the important stuff, the hack. And the first question that everyone has about the hack is, how was the real world vulnerable? How did people figure out how to hack it? And here's the thing, back in my previous video where I talked about Andrew Tate's Discord clone, when I was looking through their API, I noticed their backends and how everything is set up, their code might have been stolen from an open source Discord clone called Revolt. And if you look in the pinned comments of this video, it actually turns out that the creator of Revolt, the owner, actually made his own article talking about how Andrew Tate's The Real World is stealing his software. And the thing is that when you steal someone's software, you also steal all of the old vulnerabilities associated with it, because in the video that I showed, it was using an old version of Revolt. And well, it didn't take long for people to take advantage of those vulnerabilities, because on November 21st, 2024, the Daily Dot posted an article saying hackers breach Andrew Tate's online university. Now, just to understand this hack a lot better, there are two main components. The first component is the leaked data, and that's going to have the most impact. But then there's also the second part of the hack where the hackers actually went into the real world and started raiding it and causing a whole bunch of havoc. And in the article, they specifically say that the real world security was described as hilariously insecure, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. And I want to start off with the raid on the real world, because again, I had an account while this was happening. So during one of Andrew Tate's live streams where he pumps crypto coins, yells at the camera, the hackers started their operation in raiding the real world and causing a whole bunch of havoc. So the first thing that the hackers could do on the real world is pretty obvious. They could upload emojis, and the emojis that they uploaded were trans flags. There was Tate with big booty cheeks. There were AI images of Andrew Tate with a rainbow flag because he is very misogynistic and homophobic, which also gives you a pretty good indication why this hack happened. It was more for hacktivism, not to try and make money. But then also there were emojis that were posted that would spell out words. For example, there's this one here that says Andrew Tate is a cute gay gooner. There were more emojis posted that said Tate is a cutie patootie patootie. And finally, there were more emojis uploaded that said Tate loves kissing femboys. During the peak of the hack, if you close your emoji picker and you open it back up, there would be 10 new emojis every single second. And by the way, these emojis were visible everywhere across the real world. You didn't just have to be on one specific server, it was visible everywhere, and people started noticing. Now, the question everyone is asking is, how did they manage to pull this off? And remember how they said everything was hilariously insecure? What they basically did is they opened up their Chrome console and they typed in a command that is almost equivalent to God mode equals 1. And when they entered in the command, they were able to go to the server settings of any server and upload an emoji. There were no checks to make sure if you were admin or anything, anyone could upload an emoji. But let's move on to the second thing that these hackers did, which is a little bit more destructive than showing a whole bunch of homophobic people gay pride. The second thing these hackers could do is they could time out or mute anyone in chat. Because remember that magical God mode equals 1 command? I'm not telling you the exact command because I don't want to get in any legal trouble. But it turns out when you enable this command, you could click on anyone's profile and you would have a little menu at the bottom that would allow you to ban and cancel someone's membership and kick someone. However, both banning and kicking people were properly secured. It would actually check to see if you were like someone who had staff privileges. But you know that timeout button? Those rules didn't apply. It turns out you could time out anyone. They managed to time out Andrew Tate on his own account. And there's this dude here, which we can see, it says verified real world staff account. This is a staff member and he was timed out. Now, the thing I want to point out is that in some of the screenshots that I received, in the timeout menu, you can pick a time, and there's this 30-day time which is highlighted in red, and when you hover over it, it says timing out someone for 30 days is effectively banning someone, but it's an alternative to banning someone, which means it doesn't cancel your subscription like the ban and cancel membership button does. So you're basically banned, but you're still paying your subscription. That's a little f***ed. But something that wasn't talked about in any article is that the third vulnerability that these hackers could do is they could create any group chat. Now, I'm going to assume none of you know, but in the real world, you need to earn coins to exchange for power-ups. And specifically, there's a power-up that you can purchase called direct messages. Now, to unlock direct messages, you need to be logged in for 90 days, which means at the very least, you would need to spend 3 months worth of subscription to the real world, which is $150 just to DM people on the stupid platform. But what the hackers could do is they could add anyone to a group chat. They didn't even need to spend $150. So theoretically, they could go on a group chat with Andrew Tate and show how much of a fan they are by saying how they want to kiss Andrew Tate on the mouth while rubbing his shiny head like a genie lamp. But the fourth thing that these hackers could do is they could crash people on the real world. What they would do is they would use the real world's API to send a message. It looks like a normal message, but inside of the message content, it's all malformed and messed up. And what would happen is that if you viewed that message, your client would just crash. It would give you a blank screen and you wouldn't be able to use the real world until you went to a different channel on a different device. Now, the final thing that these hackers did, which is the most important part of the hack, is that they were able to view messages both in every single public channel, which really isn't anything important. If you have an account, you can just view all the channels normally, but they could also view the messages inside of private channels. Now, I'm going to do my best to try and explain on a surface level what's going on, but remember how they said things were hilariously insecure? What these hackers would do is they would get the server ID of the server that they're on, and to get that, you just look inside the URL bar. It's that easy. And using this server ID, they could make a request to the real world servers where it would list all of the channels inside of the server, all the public channels and all of the private channels. It would list the channel's ID, which is this chunk of text up here. Now, using both the server ID and the channel ID, you could send a request to the real world servers to get the messages inside of that specific channel. It didn't matter if it was a private channel, you were just given access to the messages. No security checks, hilariously insecure. And that was the most important thing that these hackers did, because with all of that data, they published it. Because according to a tweet by VX Underground, they noted that the content of the data breach was given to a non-profit organization, DDoS Secrets, and is available for anyone to review. And just to give you a scale on how much information are in these data leaks,
you better not be on here, boys.
Ginormous.
You
so
better
just to
not
give you
be
a frame
in
of
here.
reference, to download all of the leaked data from
There will
Andrew
be
Tate's The Real World,
consequences.
it is 14.1 gigabytes. 14 gigabytes of just raw text files. There is so much information in these leaks, it's actually nuts. There's 221 public and 395 private chat channels. Apparently they generate $5.6 million a month. Christ. But inside of the contents of these leaks, if you want to look further into it, there's both private channels and public channels, and inside of the private channels, you have the private channels of each one of the campuses or the servers, and all of this is hosted on the clear internet. You don't need to go on the dark web. It's just available for anyone on the internet to sift through. It is a treasure trove of information that is going to have way bigger consequences than you think. And just to give you an example on how big the consequences of this data breach is, I'm going to give you a couple of examples that are, I want to say probably, but 100% this is going to occur. It's just inevitable. But the first thing is that according to Have I Been Pwned, which is a website that shows you if your information has been exposed in a data breach, in the Andrew Tate data breach, they added 324,000 email addresses. If you are someone that wants to scam someone, this is basically 300. A tweet saying we hacked his school and saw the chats of his 800,000 members. The chats are public. You literally just bought a membership and logged in and read the rooms. Call that a hack, and then he just goes on a complete rant. I, as someone who has a real world subscription for only 1 month because I'm not paying $50 again, that, but I'm only able to access public channels, not private ones, and those private channels are included in the data breach. So this tweet is completely downplaying everything. But here's the thing, Andrew Tate also made a second public comment talking about this hack, because on November 23rd at 7:52 a.m., he made an announcement saying, "Fake news alert at students, the real world has never lost names, addresses, credit card details, or any personal private data in its history. We got Matrix attacked, and some nerds played with our new custom emoji functionality. The chats inside the real world are public to any paying member, but that's obvious. How is that a hack?" Again, the same argument he made in his tweet, which is just outright incorrect. However, there's an even bigger hack that everyone missed, because according to a news article by Cybernews, Andrew Tate's The Real World exposes 22 million user messages, and this was back in July 1st, 2024. Turns out the Real World's MongoDB database was just not secure. Whoops, that just happened. And the information included were people's user IDs, their email, and that's for every single person in the real world. It would also show the password reset token for every single account. If you knew Andrew Tate's user ID, which you can easily find, or if you knew Andrew Tate's email, which again is public, you could look for his account, get his password reset token, reset his password to something, and you could take control of his account and, I don't know, promote a scam cryptocurrency, scam a whole bunch of people. You could delete everything. Things could have been much worse. However, this exploit was then fixed because all they had to do was just set a password on the thing. Now, going back to Andrew Tate's post on the Real World talking about the actual data breach, he says the real world is secure. And, well, is it? It does seem like they fixed a couple of issues. They for sure fixed the emoji upload, so no more gay pride parades on Andrew Tate's The Real World, so I'm quite disappointed. But it also seems like they patched the vulnerability that allows people to view the messages inside of private channels.
Well, I wonder how many members they lost there. That should have been a ton. It should have been quite a lot. Alright, let's fix this up.
They play